Hey. So I'm now on the line with a Miss T-Zer. You
Yay.
you are were born in Sweden, right? But you couldn't live in Amsterdam, is that right?
Exactly. That's right, man.
Okay, awesome. So, and you have quite the background. You spoke about it earlier, but you are a project manager, you're a consultant. You also have your own podcast. We'll definitely get into that. And then you have a very diverse dance background.
Yeah, man. That's his life. That's his life. I'm never gonna stop. I'm just gonna like switch avenue through life, I believe.
Okay. I told you earlier, but I want to say it again. I really want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking me. I love talking to another dance podcaster. This is so, so good.
So I guess a good way to start this out, I've never had the chance to visit Sweden. So I would love to hear about, what was it like growing up in Sweden? What was your childhood like?
So I come from like a little village. I always call it a village. It's 10,000 people. It's a very white Swedish village. Um, there was not a lot of different ways you could like do things. You either played handball, football, or you were in a rock band. Those were kind of like the three versions of upbringing you could have activity wise. And yeah, in the quote unquote safe, I always say, with safety come a bit of boredom. And when you're like half farmers, half small city people, it becomes a bit clustered. I always felt that my parents gave me the biggest gift of traveling a lot from an early age. And yeah, dancing was just always there for me. I'm so happy my mom took me to another bigger city once a week to dance. And it just became my whole life passion. And I was pretty odd in my city. I was like one of the kids that preferred Bob Marley over the rock bands, and I preferred, collecting CDs from Destiny's Child and 50 Cent rather than what the other kids were listening to. So I think that already there, MTV was like my portal out to the other world, and I just couldn't wait to get older and get out of there. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You said that you were taking dance class in another city. What did you first start with?
Yeah, so back then it was same thing. It wasn't like a lot of choices. I think that the most kids dances were jazz inspired. So it would be jazz. It would like be preparation to do classical dancing. But for me, it was just like whatever dancing that I could get my hands on, really. Yeah.
Okay, I definitely understand. I definitely understand. And so I guess let me ask you this. You said you were drawn to, Bob Marley, Destiny's Child, 50 Cent. What do you think what drew you towards that? Do you know why instead of rock music?
Yeah. I do have also my parents to thank for that. Both my parents, I believe, saw Bob Marley live like back in the 70s. So when he had like one concert in Sweden, back in the 70s, they would go there, they saw him, and that was like one of the only records that were played in our household. My mom also loved like Whitney Houston and Barry White and stuff like that. So luckily I had some nice influence growing up. Then, you know, I was starting to come like a preteen when like Eminem and 50 Cent and Ludacris and them came out, and MTV was like, yeah, once I saw Sean Paul, it was over. I was like, oh my gosh, there is also reggae you can dance to. What is this? And that just turned into like a hunt for dance hall, which also became one of my main styles later on.
It's super interesting to hear I guess the influence around the world that I guess American music has is very interesting to hear.
Yeah. It's crazy though, because that was the era of music videos. And I think that a part of me really, really missed that. That was the way, like you could just turn on your TV. I didn't have siblings growing up, so the TV kind of also were my my sibling. So before I understood English, Cartoon Network and MTV and stuff like that was on. And yeah, I just was like, wow, there's a world out there where people are dancing in every party instead of, I mean, they were also drinking and doing other things, but compared to where I came from, where it was about absolute vodka and, driving illegal cars out in the forest somewhere, to what I saw on TV, which was like everyone had cool clothes and knew how to move. And, it was just like, I was like, I don't care if I become a DJ or a dancer or something. I just want to be in that world instead of what I was in, even though, again, I didn't have a bad childhood at all. It was just feeling of being connected to that other world that was a lot from the States. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool to hear. I'm very curious. I would love to hear about, what was it like being a single child? What was that like? And looking back on it, how do you think that helped develop the person who you are today? Can you put that into words?
Yeah, I do actually have to have siblings, but they're so much older they could be my parents. So I never really grew up with them. They were like more, now we're siblings, but back then they were like uncle and auntie that took care of me. They're 20 more years older than me. And I think that what it created was I had to be very outgoing in order to have a lot of friends. So my friends and the network around being with friends, hanging out with friends became really, really a strong drive for me. Luckily, I wasn't very shy. And because I was around grown-ups a lot of the times, my parents were also significantly older than a lot of my friends' parents. I had to grow up around a lot of older people. So it was never like an issue for me to approach someone who was, when I was a teenager, to have a friend that was in their 30s. That was super normal for me because everyone that was underneath my older siblings' age was kind of in my generation in a weird way. So again, TV, music, being in your own room, dancing a lot on your own, it was definitely a part of my upbringing. But I was always on the hunt of getting new friends and, yeah, just meeting new people. And I can really see how that has developed because I also became a part of my first crew around like 13, 15 years old. And since then, I've been like constantly in different dance crews. And so I think that was really, and has still, it's very important for me to be in groups of people because I didn't really have a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you kind of brought up, so that dance crew, was that like a hip hop dance crew, or what was that exactly?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
And so real quick, I want to hear that.
yeah.
Let me ask you this though. What type of impact did, I guess, hip hop music have in Sweden? Was there like a big crowd for it, or were you guys kind of like off your own little corner?
Well, actually, Sweden was pretty early with having own Swedish hip hop. So, because a lot of people, I would say, had like the VHS tapes sent back and forward in the 80s, a lot of like the early dancers, but also a lot of the early rappers took a lot of influence from the States due to that we had a big music industry. So Sweden has a big music industry exporting pop music. So like Britney Spears, I think Backstreet Boys and like all of them would go to Sweden because we have a producer called Max Martin and he produced so much of the pop industry. But I think that kind of thing also made a lot of artists in Sweden being really good in English early, because Sweden has a very, very small population. We're only 10 million people. We learn English very fast in school. And a lot of our own artists sings in English as well. So with that being said, already in the 80s, you had dancers imitating what they saw on copied VHS tapes within the hip hop. Nobody knew the difference between breaking, popping, locking. Everyone just said it was breakdance back in the days in Europe. But when it comes to the rapping, there was already like a music thing going on both in Swedish and in English. So there was definitely not a huge subgenre within our music field, but there was definitely like, if you wanted hip hop, you could find it. And there was certain radio station that would only play like local artists and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So please tell me about your first dance crew. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we have to wind it back to we're going from like music videos to the dance movies. So You Get Served came out, Stomp the Yard came out, and where I went at this time, the jazz courses had turned into street jazz and funk jazz, and it kind of like nobody really knew what to call it. And then at some point there was the first courses of street dance. So again, nobody specified like this is locking, this is house, this is no. It was like New Jack Swing meets whatever. It was a mix of everything. It was called street dance courses, and it was like all the soundtracks to to like like NSYNC, Justin Timberlake. It was like everything that had, we would dance to live concert audios because those had the best dance breaks. And my first crew was formed around 2006. It was a hip hop crew, and you had to audition in, and we became that city's like one of the only few hip hop crews with multiple styles. So there was like one before us that was only into breaking, and they were like competing in breaking only. And then you had us that was like, we're going to represent all the styles. And I remember it so clearly because that meant we had to be assigned styles, because we thought that in order for you to have a hip hop crew back then, you had to be like You Get Served. You had to be able to, one person had to be able to jump out and do only waving, and the other person had to be doing only crumping, and the other person had to do dance hall. So we were assigned styles so that we were as varied as possible, and all of our shows were about 8 minutes long because we wanted to showcase all of these styles. So that was kind of the first crew. I got assigned the styles of dancehall and crump because I was an explosive dancer back then. So yeah, that's how it started.
Okay. And so tell me, who were some of your dancehall and crump, influencers, and who did you look up to when you were in that dance crew?
Yeah, so since we never met any of the dancers like that had these styles, I remember ordering a first instructional DVD by Ding Dong Ravers Clavers from Jamaica. And yeah, it was like that. It was like how to dance hall. This is a Willy Bounce. This was like before you knew how to utilize YouTube. You had to search exactly on what you wanted to know. There was just not a lot up there. You didn't know the dancers' names. So if you would click in dance hall, the only thing you would see was dance hall queens, which was like twerking and jumping off of speakers and dance hall queen competitions. But we wanted to know what were they doing in the background of Sean Paul videos, which was Give Me the Light, and you could see like all these dancers doing all these different kind of moves, and we were like, that's what we want to learn. We want to learn the Nalinga. We wanted to learn all of that. And then same thing when it came to crump. I think I had tie-dyes as my legend, and I would like literally find the YouTube documentary Rise about crump, and that would be one of the few things we saw, plus Stomp the Yard, where Chris Brown also appeared in the beginning and like did crumping. So those were kind of like the two outlets of information back then. Yeah.
Okay, I definitely understand that. I definitely do. So you grow up heavily involved in the dancing scene. I guess fast forwarding, what are your plans once you graduate high school? Is it to go pursue college or is it to become a full-time dancer? What happens after you graduate from high school?
Yeah. So after I graduated high school, my best friend and me, we were like, how far away from Sweden can we go? So we decided to travel to Australia. We backpacked, and I ended up doing Australia, New Zealand, and Thailand. As I was going from 18 years old, turning into 19. And during that trip, there was not a lot of dance opportunities. I did do some things in Sydney and in Auckland, but as soon as I hit Thailand, it was like over. It was like there was no dance classes. I did some Thai dance. It wasn't my thing. And I realized the more longer I was away from it, how much of my whole identity it was. And after about a half year, I came back to Sweden. I looked up what kind of dance hip hop educations are there because there was none in higher educations of university levels or college. And I didn't want to do classical dance. So I was like, okay, I want to do hip hop. And I found this education in Copenhagen, Denmark, which was one of the first ones in Europe to actually open up like a 1 year hip hop education. You had to pay for it. I had some savings and I said, let's do it. So I moved to Copenhagen and danced there for a year, which was awesome because they brought in some really dope legends, both from the States, like Sugar Pop and Ken Swift, and like real hip hop OGs in our genre, but also the European ones. Like we would have some house legends coming over, like Capella and yeah, we had a schedule that was like from morning to evening, just contemporary dance or hip hop or house or new jack swing or dance hall, crumb, popping, locking. We just did all of it. And it was the first time I got to dance outside my home area with other dancers. And I just did what I did when I was younger. I just kind of elbowed my way to the front and hunted down the best ones I could and stood next to them so I could be better. And that's where I got my broader education within that. And then I moved back to Sweden, but I moved to a bigger city called Gothenburg, which is the second biggest one. And I was like, I'm gonna start my own dance career here. I had already started to get into whacking at that point, also like whacking voguing was really on my list then, together with dance hall and so on. So my hip hop journey just continued, but there where I could actually have more jobs.
Okay, I definitely understand that. I definitely do. So I guess let me ask you this then. Well, you say you moved to Gothenburg, is that you said you called it?
Yeah,
And so do
Gothenburg.
you open up a dance studio? Do you start teaching class? Like what do you do from there?
No, I went to there they already had like a really renowned hip hop school called Twisted Feet Dance Academy. And yeah, I started taking a bunch of classes there. And then I was a bit bold and I was like, yo, you don't have whacking. I know a little bit of whacking. Why don't you hire me? So after half a year, I started to teach there, which gave me also a lot of opportunities to perform for them. Sometimes I did like one TV gig for them, but also the National Opera decided to do a hip hop show, and I got to be with them there. And yeah, it just kind of rolled on from that to building my own crew, Fuse Fam, and that crew was created once we were 5 people from the hip hop school that found Kizomba.
Okay, amazing. So well real quick, yeah, I guess tell me about your introduction to partner dancing. How did that come about?
Yeah, that's also quite funny story. My dad took me to Mexico to see like the Mayan temples and stuff like that. And during the evenings, there was this constant bachata and salsa going on. And I was like, okay, I'm a dancer. I should know how to do this. And so I always got asked, and I didn't know how to follow for the life of me. I was like, I had done group choreos, I had battled, like I had done everything. And then I couldn't follow these men that were just asking me to dance all the time. So I basically went back to Sweden a bit ashamed, and I was like, I need to just learn how to follow basically, so I can never end up in a situation like that again where I travel and somebody asks me to dance and I'm just don't know. So I went out to salsa and bachata clubs and were like, hi, I'm a beginner again in another dance style. Do you want to dance with me? And yeah, it was tough in the beginning, man. It was like they danced like one song and then they were like, yeah, okay, thank you. And then I had to ask again. So I got really good at asking already from salsa and bachata because they were like, what kind of hip hop thing is this? I didn't look like any of the women there with like the dresses, and I just came with my sneakers. Like it was one of those. I had to prove myself a bit.
I definitely want to get into that, but let me ask you this. I'm super curious to hear. How do I ask this? Growing up and having this, I don't know how to word it properly, but more so like this individualistic dance style, meaning you don't really have a partner. How do you think like your hip hop background or your performance background, how do you think that affects or influences your partner dancing style? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I was always taught to go bigger, bigger, bigger when it came to all my hip hop styles. Like whatever we did, you had to be explosive, right? So it was like a burst of energy outwards, and the bigger movements you can do. And if you could take the stage in like 4 slides, then you were good. You could like spatial awareness with other dancers was great, but the explosiveness, there was just like, you were just always taught to do it bigger. And that was the clash when I started with partner dance, because I realized one, it's not just about me exploding outwards. I had to start to contain my moves. And in the beginning, I found that I struggled with it. Like I wanted to show what I heard in the music. I wanted to express myself, but the only way I knew how to do that was bigger outwards. And when I suddenly started to dance with people, it became a bit like uncontrolled. And so that was definitely a learning, like how do I minimize my movements so it fits in the flow and I'm not disturbing the leading, but still express myself. So there was times where I minimized myself so much that I just tried to follow and didn't really dare to express anything, and yeah, so on. So that was the shift of like going from always being told to take as much space as possible to suddenly, no, you got to keep in the frame. You still gotta be sharp and show what you hear, but not too much. So that was definitely the change.
I understand that. I think a better way to word that was you have more of a, I guess maybe a performance background. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I definitely understand that. I definitely understand that. So I guess when you do perform, you are a expert at that.
Yeah, I mean that was what I did, right? Like even if it was improvised, again, like in battles, you had to be very aggressive, especially in dance hall with a lot of gun moves, and there was like you had to be in people's face and you had to be daring in that sense. And or if you wanted to perform like a more sensual choreo, you had that flirtiness. So, but I didn't really know how to do that in a couple dance where suddenly you like faced someone very close up and not as an audience, but actually having somebody that close that you're supposed to like vibe with. You're not supposed to impress them by like flirting with them like you're doing a performance, but you're also not supposed to be all up in their face battling them. So like what was then the natural way of just hanging out on the dance floor and still creating a good vibe?
Okay, I definitely understand how that can be difficult for you. Um, I would love to hear about, you brought it up, you brought up a little bit earlier, but tell me more about your beginner stage and salsa bachata. What was that like for you?
Yeah, no, it was like entering a completely different dance scene, right? Like the people were older, so I felt like I was one of the youngest all the time. And luckily, I had some really good mentors. So the people who are still running the hip hop school Twisted Feet in Gothenburg, that couple, Nina and Sarion, became one of the first few internationally touring salsa dancers that mixed with hip hop. So if you ever seen like there's some old shows that like Liberian Girl or yeah, they've done a bunch of different really cool stuff, and they knew how to create shows where they mixed hip hop and salsa. And so because I had them out there, I knew that it was possible to have still the hip hop element to it, but I did have a bit hard time connecting with salsa and bachata music. I don't understand Spanish. I was never really into Latin American culture like that. And I think that is why I'm so happy today that I held on to just learning how to follow basics within that. But when Kizomba hit the dance floor, I was already in it. I'm so happy about that I held on until this third style started to appear, because I could have easily quit it long before, because my goal was reached. I could like follow, and I didn't want to pursue anything within salsa and bachata. I just didn't want to be embarrassed if anyone asked me. That was kind of it.
So let me ask you this now. I'm very curious to hear from you. There are other followers out there who are having difficulties following. Whether they have the same background as you or they may be completely new to dancing. I'm curious, what words of advice, what words of wisdom could you give them to maybe help them become better followers or, reach their goals?
Yeah. Wow, there's so much to say to followers, because I feel like my philosophy around following has really, really developed since I started teaching couple dancing and Kizomba myself. But I always say that there is, the leaders are creating the frame, but the followers are painting the picture. And I think that you really, really need to do both. You just have to establish, what are we painting? Are we painting a mountain? Well, the followers are the ones that putting the color to that. So you really have a significant role, and you're not passive. It's about finding the subtleness of injecting that musicality of yours, or that style of yours, or that storytelling of yours within that dance that can really make your picture that you're creating in that moment blossom. Okay. And I hope I don't sound too hippie about that. but that's really how I feel.
Okay, that's very good in like theory. Is there any practical advice, I guess, do you have? Or is that something that they have to come to your class for?
No, I guess it's like, I wonder if I can speak for followers in all different couple dancing styles. I think that now I'm mostly, since I'm focused on the Kizomba dancers, the techniques that I have of following is just to find different points of following. In Kizomba, you don't only follow the arms and the frame, you follow with your solar plexus, you follow with your legs, you follow with the hips, you follow with the feet. So if you can anchor different following points with your partner, it becomes effortless, but you need to have your own balance. And I think that that's also where people struggle. you see now a way more followers in the Kizomba scene that are dancing on flats. And I do think that it has something to do with it, that keeping the balance on your own all the time, that you can focus on connecting on all these points. So I can dance completely without any connection with a Kizomba partner, because I can read where their shoulders are aligning, where their hips are aligning, where their center are aligning. I can do Bluetooth following if I want to, and so can any follower do. It's about, can you see, can you connect with these different places? But I know it's different, because in salsa you have to have like the rubber band kind of following effect, and so I can only speak for the Kizomberos and the Kizomberas out there. Connection points are really, really valid, and if you can allow yourself to open up to that. I know it's scary in the beginning to be like chest to chest with a stranger in the beginning, but if you don't open up that chest, you don't connect with your solar plexus, for example. So it just, yeah, we can go into like technicality, like nerd talk about this, but followers definitely have a huge role in what we do.
I definitely understand that. I definitely do. So I wanted to ask you like I guess the counterpoint to that question. You know, you asked you for advice for followers. So I would love to hear from you. What advice do you have for leaders?
Oh, where to start? I think that the number one thing that I always tell like private students and students is like, if you can create a safe space for followers within the Kizomba, that is the number one establishment in order for her to open up and give you everything she got. There is something so intimate and so beautiful with Kizomba that you can share one energy and one balance point, that if you're not in sync, or if you for some reason feel unsafe within that connection, it becomes a stiffness that is hard to get over. So the safety, I always say, is the number one. If you can come, and that is to do a lot with energy and vulnerability, because like now we're talking about the classical gender roles. I mean, females are great leaders as well, but they have generally an easier way to establish a safe space with other women because they just don't feel as threatened, maybe. But the beautiful part with masculinity and masculine leaders is that when you can create that safe space of like, I got you, let's explore this together, there is such a vulnerability in that from both sides, that for me, that is when magic can happen. When a male leader can be like, I got you, I guide you, and I want to give you tools, and we're going to play with that. That for a female follower becomes the best playground to be like, okay, cool. Show me where you're going. I'm going to show you what I hear. Let me show you what I can feel. And because the leaders usually focus a lot on the guidance and the frame and the steps, the routes, the journey, then when she can add, this is what I feel, and I can take you to this world on that journey, like that is where the magic really, really can happen. And if you're open for that as a leader and not focused on, we're going to do it my way and my way only, then you can probably learn a lot about life. That's what I think.
Okay,
So
all right.
that's again like the philosophy around it. And how do you create a safe space? Well, of course, you got to be clear with your posture. Again, open. If you're closed, you don't open up that vulnerable spot of your chest, and so you hunch over, which creates a bit of a mountain that is hunched over the follower. So if you can open up, you are inviting to connect rather than leaning over. So a posture is always the number one thing for me. And when you then can be connecting with, sometimes I'm going to give you freedom to express, and sometimes we're going to have to be in sync. Sometimes it's my turn, sometimes it's your turn. And so if you can be clear in giving those signals and those indications, it becomes a conversation rather than, shit, I'm panicking because I don't know how to impress her more. I don't know what to do more in order for her to not say no after 3 dances. Because as a follower, you feel that stress rather than being challenged. Okay, like I said something, you say something. So it starts with posture for me when it comes to leaders, and then it comes into the relaxed frame. Nobody wants like a hard, come here and I'm going to lock you down type of frame. And also nobody wants to rush. Like, it depends on the music. Can you adapt to the music? Can we do slower? Can we do faster? Can we do more upbeat and sharper? Can we do Afro beats and more vibey, groovy? That's language. It's just speaking different languages. And the more versatile you can be in showing different musicality, that is also, again, different pictures and more interesting. And that's why you can keep a follower for 2 hours rather than 2 songs. I think that's how I believe it is.
I definitely understand that. I definitely do. I think I don't know whether unfortunately or fortunately, but a lot of that comes with just experience as you improve as a dancer. But
Yeah.
I definitely understand that.
Yeah, what would you say have progressed you as a leader? I know I'm not supposed to interview you, but
Yeah.
what do you say would have been like a thing that unlocked you most as a leader?
Biggest thing for me was, I think, confidence, and the confidence led to a calmness, if I could say that. And so I like to think that when I dance Kizomba, I like to think I'm pretty smooth at it. So I don't really rush anything. I'm very cool, calm, and collected. And so I think I give off that good energy that lets the follower lose that tension, lose that tension in her body. So I think the only way I became confident is because I stuck with it for so long. I've been dancing Kizomba for at least 7, 8 years now, which isn't the longest, but I'm decent at it. I know what I'm doing, and I love it. So I bring an enthusiasm and a joy to it. So confidence, which comes from just sticking with it and becoming comfortable. I think when you're comfortable, you don't rush. You're not tense. You don't have this nervous energy, and I think it makes for a better dance for both parties. I don't know if you would agree with that.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Just like what I said, right? Like, we are here right now. And this song, in this moment, we cannot be 3 beats ahead. We cannot be, 10 turns ahead. We got to be in this moment. And if you can just breathe in that and be there, I think that is like the most beautiful thing, right? Because how many times in life do you have that? How many times do you actually live like that in the moment? Not one beat before and not one mistake too late. Because even if you make a mistake, if you stay there mentally, you're really screwing up the rest of the dance, right? So you need to let that go. So I think that Kizomba in general teaches you to like really be in the moment, let go of what was in the past, and not rush to the future. Because if you are right there, that calm, that smoothness is like, wow, we get to do that, and we get to do that together with another human being. And after that dance is gone, that moment is gone, and we are not crying over it. We're just grateful, right, that we actually get to live in the moment. Just maybe for a few hours in one day, in that week, in that month, we got to be just there, just present.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you being in the moment. I definitely 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier, but tell me about your introduction to Kizomba. Who introduced you, or how did that come about?
Yeah. So I don't know if it was like that everywhere, but in Sweden, Kizomba was there in the Cape Verdean scene. So like the Angolan people and the Cape Verdeans, they had their own Kizomba parties, right? And they still do. That was never something that was present at the salsa and bachata parties. But around there, like 2004, Kizomba started to be played like every 10th song. So you had have like 2, 3 bachatas, 2, 3 salsas, 2, 3 bachatas, and then like there was like one kizomba song, and then everyone went to the bar. Nobody knew how to dance on it. People just went. That was when you took a break. Basically, you went out. You swapped your T-shirt. And for me and the few other people that came from that hip hop school, when we started to hear ghetto souk music, we were like, "Oh my god, what are we supposed to dance on this? Because this is the best music of the whole evening." So there was, again, it was our hip hop salsa owner, that guy that owned the dance school. He was usually also out, and he would be like, "It's something like this. I've seen it in some salsa festivals." And he kind of showed us like that first Idia Volta or basic 3 with the little knee swing that was so popular in the beginning. So like 1, 2, 3, swing with the knees, swing with the knees, and then back again, like how it really used to look like. And then they announced that the bachata teachers were going to do like one beginner course in Kizomba. And so we attended that. They were named Greg Martin, which was one of the guy who started the Swedish Kizomba festival later on, a year after. And then there was Jesse, and then there was Christian. And they were all like bachata teachers at that point. And they just did this first course. We took it. And then they said, well, since we don't have so much Kizomba, you have to go to Paris. So in Europe, Paris is, of course, like the number one place you would go to because of urban kiss. So we didn't know the traditional authentic kizomba at all. We just knew urban because that was the music that was played on that every 10th song. So we went to Paris Kizomba Congress 2014, and we just realized that there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people doing it, and many of them did urban kiss. So we again thought that was our introduction. So that's how I started Kizomba, right from the urban part. It was the teachers like Enna, Moon, Albir, like all of them were around. Curtis was around. And we, like everyone else, Albir, Sarah Lopez, YouTube videos, we started to watch all of those. And then 2015 already, Greg Martin wanted to do the Sweden's first Kizomba Congress, and he needed a show. And so again, who were the only people who knew how to produce a show? At that time, it was the hip hop dancers. So that's how he asked me and then my other 4 friends from the hip hop school, can you do something? Can you do like a show? Because we need something to represent Sweden. And I'm going to invite other people to do shows, because it was still like Salsa Bachata always has shows. So that's how it used to be. And we were like, cool, yeah, we're going to do a fusion. We're going to call ourselves Fuse Fam. And we're going to throw in hip hop and Kizomba. And we're going to do a show. And that's how it started. That's how we started. Yeah, the first Sweden Kizomba Festival. We were the first Swedish crew. I think one of the few still to this day that has ever done shows and performed with it. And from there, it just took off. And we started touring, doing shows with that mix. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I definitely want to hear this. Tell me about your beginner stage in Kizomba. What was that like?
Well, it's also funny because I remember how different the posture was back then. Like we were told as followers to hold our hand like almost in the neck of the leaders. Like it was just very weird. And we were supposed to also hold our right hand straight, and you could like the leaders would grab in the wrist rather in the hand. It was very interesting. Then it was like very staccato in a way. um I just remember loving the music first and foremost, and because we didn't have so much teaching, we were like, how many hip hop steps can we fit into this kizomba dance style? Like, how can we do a kickball change here, you know? So I would say the beginning stages of my kizomba career was like, how much of whatever other things I know can I squeeze into urban kiss? I think that was like at some point we were dancing like 75% hip hop and then like 25% kizomba, and we did a lot of freestyle in between. But the more we got into it, the more we realized, yeah, you can do so much within kizomba because the music can change. You don't have to dance on certain beats. You can do slow motion. You can do ticking. All the things that we found was funny, and just the beats were fire. Like the mixtapes, the DJs, it was just awesome. It was awesome to start with it. And then when we started to meet other dancers, everyone had their own style. It was so refreshing compared to what I felt with salsa bachata. Was that in kizomba, because it was like wild wild west, we didn't really know anyone what exactly to do. We just mixed where everyone came from at that point. It was so free. And it still is for me. It still is freedom for me. You can feel when you're dancing with someone who's coming from tango into kizomba, or somebody who's coming from bachata into kizomba, or whatever. You can feel that. And that's so liberating in a way.
I definitely understand when you speak about your love for the music. I think that's what draws me as well to Kizomba.
Oh, so good.
It is. I'll say this. I can listen to, there are a couple of Latin songs I enjoy, a couple of salsa songs I enjoy, a couple of bachata songs I enjoy, but I don't think I'll ever play them in my car. But I will 100% play some Kizomba, some Ghetto Zouk, some urban kids music in my car. 100%.
Yeah, and like I also love, and I don't know if that is again because of the love for DJs that I always had from hip hop and stuff like that. But like the DJs are our superstars. It's not the artists, really. It's the DJs who can put together the most fire mixtapes on SoundCloud that we go for. We look which DJs are at this festival, and that's where you go, right? Like you're like, oh my gosh, Ishigo is going there, or you know, Val is going there. Like whoever is your style, you want to go where the DJs are going most of the times. And that's an interesting concept, right? Because I don't have any playlists in my Kizomba library of the artists. I barely know the artists, but I do know the DJs that I like and how they transition and what fun things they lay in. I don't know if you have the same, but SoundCloud is my friend. Like,
I think it's super different. And you spoke on it earlier, but I don't really, I don't know what, I want to ask you this, but I don't know what a dance congress or dance festivals are like in Europe. I've only ever been to congresses in the US. I imagine they're similar. Um, I've never really been to a big Kizomba festival. It's normally Kizomba tacked on to a salsa bachata festival.
yeah.
That's what I've experienced. So let me ask you this though, and you can answer this however you want. Tell me about what are your thoughts and opinions on dance congresses, dance festivals?
Yeah, so we started also as like, performing at the Salsa and Bachata festival. So we were there a lot in the beginning of the years. But Kizomba was always the floor that was like the smallest, shittiest floor in the corner of Salsa and Bachata. It was never the focus, it was never the priority. So when in Europe, when they started to have their own Kizomba congresses, yeah, like you have very few Kizomba dancers, I would say, that go to Salsa and Bachata festivals anymore, because we have our own festivals. And Like the biggest ones we have, it's like thousands, it's like 1,000 people. And you, instead of having salsa, bachata, kizomba rooms, you have authentic traditional kizomba room number 1, urban room number 2. Then you have either compa, or you have T-Zer, or you have tarasho or tarajinha floors, which means everyone now in Europe can choose to go to festivals which are only dedicated to that, and you can just swap in between what music you want to dance to. And so I think that my personal opinion is that salsa and bachata festivals kind of have missed out on making kizomba a priority. It was more like they facilitated that kind of on the side, and I still feel like that. We performed, we taught at a festival in Turkey last year, and it was kind of like going back like 5 years, and just like, okay, the kizomba dance stars are like lesser valued because they don't really do shows. And then like the workshops are attended, but the kizomba floors are always smaller. It's always like, it's not as fancy. The DJs are way fewer. So yes, you have kizomba parties there, and there are way more people now than it was 8 years ago, but it is a huge target market. And kizomba dancers just got fed up, I think, of always being deprioritized, and so that's why they have their own, and now it's hard to go back.
I'm
So
curious though.
I really want you to come to Europe, man. Like this is it's another ball game. It's another ball game. I really hope you can make it here.
I was gonna say though, I appreciate the variety though, and what I mean is that I appreciate being able to do one song of bachata, then go to the salsa room, do some salsa, and then go do some kizomba. I appreciate that variety, so I don't want
Yeah.
to complain, but yeah, I do appreciate that variety. So I wish maybe, if possible, I could go to somewhere where all get their due respect. But I definitely understand what you're saying though.
Yeah, I mean there are those as well. Like it's just depending on what you want to, what kind of rooms, what kind of music do you want in those rooms. So I think it's up to everyone, but there we still have those as well, of
Okay,
course.
awesome. Okay. Um, so let me ask you this then: for someone who is a beginner and they feel like they're stuck in this rut, you feel like they're not getting better. What words of wisdom could you give that person
If they have 2 left feet.
if they have 2 left feet?
um yeah, I mean there is nobody who's born good. You know what I mean? There's only hard work into it. I don't think that there's any way to get around it more than asking up a lot and being okay with that. And I'm talking also especially to my followers, because God knows they are wasting time waiting to be asked up. Um, you just gotta skip that. You just gotta be like, hey, I'm here to train. I want to get better. I want to be asked more. In order for me to do so, I need to get better. And so the only way of doing that is to ask. Ask. The more people you can dance with, the more used to different bodies you will be and to different dance styles. Goes for followers, goes for leaders. I have had terrified leaders that I ask up and I say, how many people have you danced with tonight? And they were like, 2, including you. And I'm like, that's not good enough, man. Like, I am going to watch you and you're going to have to ask at least 5 people before you leave this house, And they look at me from the other side of the room. And yes, it's because I'm one of the teachers in Amsterdam, but, they see me from the other side of the room and they're kind of showing me like, I've asked 4. And then I'm like, well, you still have some good to go. And it doesn't matter if this person you're dancing with is saying no after a dance. Get used to it, man. We're here for building our puzzle. And as a follower, that is super important too. I can follow practically anyone from beginner to super advanced because I dared to ask everyone in between that range. And if you think that standing on the side will make you a better dancer, then go ahead and you try that. But for me, it's every time I dance with someone, I'm adding a little piece to the puzzle. Oh, he's leading like that. Oh, he's leading with his legs. Oh, he's leading with a lot more turns. Oh, this person is leading super slow. So if I can like add pieces to my puzzle, and I can do that by asking 10 people in a night, then it's like karma. It will come back around because you will then be with all these dancers who you asked, and they will always feel that they can ask you back no matter what level they are on. And so, yeah, there is a reason why certain followers and leaders are super adaptable. And that is because they have experience with different bodies, short, tall, stiff, smooth, whatever it is. But if you don't go out there and you think every single opportunity on the social is a way for you to add to your puzzle, you're wasting your time. Followers and leaders, like, just have that as a goal. I'm not leaving the social until I've asked at least 5 people. Period.
I'm curious, what do you think the ratio is for, I guess, leaders or followers at your festivals, at your parties, at your congresses?
You mean that I meet or that I...
What is the makeup of leads and follows? What do you think the rate is? It 50-50 leads and followers or 40-60?
I mean, I do appreciate the organizers that have stops on follower tickets in order to maintain the balance. So there is a lot of that going on. And you can definitely see that followers are not interested in returning to a festival that has a ratio that is off because they had to wait too much. And so either your ratio can be off with having 25% more women, and you invest in taxi teams so that you really have leaders that ask and ask and ask, that have lamps on their arms, that have clear t-shirts, that the women feel safe to ask and they will always get a yes. And that also have like maximum 3 dances, then I'm going to ask the next woman. Either you're going to have to invest a lot into that so that you have like, these are the taxi teams that are attending my festival, so that as a woman, you feel like there's going to be a chance. But I do appreciate organizers who have the stops. Okay, we're going to have to stop follower tickets now because the ratio is getting off. We're going to release more once the leader tickets gets up again. And so you never really have completely off balance. And I must say, a lot of the female organizers were the ones who were harder on this before, but I do see a better ratio division right now. And I do really respect the organizers who stand their ground, because it's really hard when you have like 500 women who's like, I know that they are sold out, but can you please, and they have to be like, no, because the balance, and I want you to be able to comfortably dance and actually get to dance. So yeah, I would say that there is always more women, but it depends on how you kind of handle that.
Okay, I didn't even heard of that, any of that. I've definitely heard of taxi drivers. I didn't know there were teams now. Europe is completely different, and I didn't even know they had tickets based on role, follower tickets, lead tickets. I didn't know any of that. That's super organized. That's actually very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, because like, as a woman, if you stand for 3 days in a row and you had like 2 dances per night, and you are the one paying for the festival, because if you're like 75% women, you're the ones paying, and the men gets in for free because the organizers are panicking. And so they're just asking all their guy friends and guy connects, and they get in for free. So essentially you have women paying for festivals and they are not the one dancing. It's just like you're literally financing your own disaster. So yeah, organizers that can really get into that and have ticket system that blocks certain, it's like a technical thing at this point, but yeah, you really win a lot on it.
Okay, wow, I didn't even know about that. That's actually super impressive. Let me ask you this. When I say the word musicality, what does that mean to you?
I think it's like with what we said before. Can you dance differently on different music? Can you capture the essence of this particular song and make it different to the previous one? If you can do that change and you're just not stuck in patterns and formats and step combinations, because I will feel if we're doing the same things on all music, no matter what tempo and what feeling, then I know that you're just calculating out the steps, right? But if you can make it different, feeling wise, tempo wise, dynamic wise, that is musicality for me. If you can catch things that catch me by surprise, that is really impressive. I think that that is a really dope musicality to have. Can you actually hear the things that maybe other people don't capture? That's impressive.
Definitely, I definitely understand that. What do you think what makes for a good dance social versus a bad dance social?
Hmm. Um, I always feel if I leave and I have learned something new, this is my personal development goals, right? Like if I leave the social and I was like, wow, these dances were really fun because it challenged me, or I learned something new, or I got to hear the song in a new way, or I got to explore my own movements in a new way. I always feel satisfied. That's a good social for me, but that's also because I am like every social is a training moment and a moment for me to get better. I do think that an intimate, dope, and positive vibe is what overall makes me want to come back. If you have a friendly kind of conversation or vibe in between people, like I love to hype people on the dance floor. I know we're like, this may be a bit weird, but if I see people that really have a jam, you know, shouting, filming, you know, really just being impressed from the sidelines is also creating this vibe of like, let's let's freaking go, like let's just have a party. And I think that that is the best ones. If you can have more of, it's not about how you look like, it's not about how blinged up you are, but how much fun you have and how much you support other dancers rather than trying to show off in front of other dancers. That creates a different vibe of like, yo, we're here to like sweat. Let's sweat. Let's not trying to be, let's not trying to be too pretty about it. Let's just go in and rock this floor. Like that's, for me, makes a good social, a good party any day.
Uh, you kind of brought it up. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on how do I say this? The business aspect of dancing starting to become more of a thing. And what I mean is, people recording, people trying to promote their online course or their, private classes. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like,
The commercialization of
yeah,
dancing.
it's hard sometimes to not end up in that because in in all honesty, we need that in order to have teachers, to have more people learning, and not every teacher will attract the same students. So in a way, you have to have a variety of people being reflected on the floor, and that is mostly through videos. In the beginning, I was like, as soon as we pick up the videos and the flashlights are starting to show, I can understand for dancers like that have it all the time that it might be a bit annoying that you just can't just share a dance privately with someone. But are if you are an artist and you have a lot of people that wants to dance with you, in a way, it also becomes their only moment. I mean, I have filmed some beginners dancing with super dance stars, like, and when I come up to them later on and say, yo, I got a video of you dancing with this artist, they're like, oh my gosh, that is the first time I've ever seen myself dance. And so in a way, it becomes another annoying flashlight for the artist. And I understand that. And it can be very annoying when you just want to share a moment. And on the other hand, it might be a one in a lifetime opportunity for the other person, depending on what level they are on. It is art. Just like you want to see our music artists perform, you also want to see your dance stars perform. So I do have like the double duality of it. You have to promote yourself, otherwise you're never going to be seen. But do you go out just to get a video? That's when the intention of you going out starts losing its connection to, we're here to just have a good time and be in the moment, to, oh, I see this as a work opportunity every time to promote myself, to show off, to show how good I am so that you can sign up to my classes. I think that the intention of it, just there needs to be an authentic, real joy and love for being in that moment with the people you're dancing with. If it just becomes a machine, then you have started to lose the connection with the dancing and you see it only as a work. It's hard to know where that line is, to be honest, but I do like the filming mostly because I like to film followers that are a bit shy and they're a bit insecure. And when they get to see that they can actually do it on video, and they can have that as their little proof when the next dance that goes really wrong, and they can look back at that dance that actually went fine and be like, I actually look great. I look better than I think. That is a confidence boost that's going to make them better dancers. Just like you talked about before, the confidence level that kind of grows over time. So I'm definitely a filmer. I do like to film people and hype them up. I'm not going to lie. But it's not just the coolest dancers. It's everyone that just shows up with a vibe.
I want to ask you this, and you kind of spoke on it earlier already, but I want to get a definitive answer out of you. In your opinion, what makes for, a good lead? What qualities does a good lead have in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, what I said before, I think that I touched on it already. Like, if you can create that safe space for us to express together, that is the base of the base. Because from there, you can go anywhere, really. If that is established and you have that, as you mentioned, like you have that calm energy, you're going to hopefully connect that with the other dancer, right? So if you can breathe, then she can breathe. And it's, peace is just a breath away, as they say. And that maybe be okay with starting slow. That's also another one. Like, we don't have to rush into it. It's okay to establish some kind of where are we and feel each other out. And that can start with just breathing and really just see where we are, starting to show the steps in a slower tempo in order to speed it up later. Everyone likes a smile. There's just something so weird with like coming into someone who's a completely like a stiff statue face, and you're like, am I here to entertain you or to like make you happier, or are you happy? Like, there's just like, you're just gonna start as a follower to think that, oh, I just asked someone that doesn't look like he really wanted it to say yes, but he kind of said it out of pity. Like, you just start to question it. And I guess the difference is that if I feel that I want to, oh, you're giving me like no happiness, no connection there. Okay, I'm about to show you. So then it becomes a battle for me, but that's because I come from battling. So then I'm gonna kill you with kindness and musicality and all of that. But for someone who maybe take it personally, like that can be such an off thrower. So if you can come in with a calm energy, which is like, yo, we're just here to share good vibes already there, it's So nice. So if you can create that base, whatever, if you're doing basic steps the whole dance and you still have fun, she's still gonna want to dance with you again, you know. But if you, doesn't matter if you're an advanced dancer, if you come in with an energy that is like, I'm just here to do the set of step combos on you so that you feel that I can take you, like, I don't know, there, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a different mentality.
I definitely do. You spoke on it too. One thing, smiling is for both parties, leader or follower. Smiling is so
Yes.
big, and I'm pretty sure if you're in this dance scene long, and if you're going to experience that dance partner who you just can feel does not want to dance with you or is not present, and it makes for a terrible dance experience. So
Yeah.
so I definitely know what you mean by that.
Yeah, so many leaders tell me that they go into dancing and the followers look like dead fish. And I'm like, like, don't say yes then. It's okay. You can also just be like, thank you, no, thank you. But if you're gonna go in, then you give it your all. Like, you're not just half, oh, okay, I guess I'll see what this guy, like, what? No, like, he asked you up. There's a moment, and if you give your best, you're gonna make his anxiety also go down. Like, if I go in and I have an energy with, it doesn't matter what failures we're doing together, I got you. I'm gonna save it because I'm a follower that also likes you to experiment, and experimenting are nice. So let's just try things, and if it goes wrong, then we laugh about it and we continue again. Like, we're not getting stuck in that what just happened kind of energy. So the follower has a major role in this. Like, it's so scary as a leader to go in and be like, this is what I got. Like, I hope you are going to be good with it. It's so scary. And I think that you only understand that once a follower try to lead. Wow. So many followers needs to try to lead. I am terrified leading. It's not my strong suit. I'm so impressed. That's why I would never give leaders a hard time. Wow. No, no, no.
I wish more
No.
people had that empathy.
Oh, oh, yeah.
You bring up a great point right there. I have my own opinions on this question, but I would love to hear from yours. And I don't want to make it like competitive, but I would love to hear from you. Who do you think has a more difficult beginner stage, a leader or a follower?
Leaders, of course. Leaders, because you guys have to think about, what steps am I doing? How can I make sure that she understands what steps I'm doing? How can I make sure it's on the music? And on top of that, I'm going to express some kind of personality. And then on top of that, I am going to try to also not step on her and or accidentally make moves where my hips are too much forward, and that just, I was like, nah, lead. That's why it takes so much longer time. Like, followers can at least go out and be like, go out and don't plan anything. We don't have to plan shit. We just go out there. And the only thing I have to make sure of is that I go in with a great energy, that I try to listen and not trying to prove too much, so that it disturbs the leading. And the rest is just relaxation. Wow, I'm so relaxed as a follower compared to what it means to be a leader. So no, I have high regards for leaders, and the amount of force you have to bring in if a follower is not light, and the pain like in the shoulders or the neck of, oh, you just work with me here kind of thing. No, I do think leader has a way harder time. So I appreciate you so much, so much.
You brought it up, but I agree with your answer, and that would have been my answer as well. But the way you describe following made it seem like it was easy, and I've tried to follow on numerous occasions, and I don't know how you all do it. So I'm just as impressed with followers, and especially skilled followers.
Yeah.
Some of the best dancers I know are able to both lead and follow. And I know
Yeah.
that that creates such a well-rounded dancer.
Yeah. Yeah. Following is not easy either. I just think that in the beginning, when you learn, because you don't have to plan, I think that followers have an easier tendency to get good faster because you don't have to plan and structure what's going to be my next move. It is really hard to follow, and just being okay with being led and okay to surrender
Giving up
to that,
control.
giving up control, and at the same time add like it's a whole science. But because of the planning aspect, I just think that it takes faster time for a follower to get decent, and it takes longer time for a leader to get decent. But then it comes a shift for followers, like where you can be a decent follower, and then you can. It takes hard work to become an excellent follower. So that I think the leaders can then just keep on progressing. It's a harder, steeper beginning, but at least it can go up more evenly. Whereas the followers, you kind of like you can hit a plateau, and if you don't work to get to the next one, you will always stay there to the
Okay,
basics.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Let me ask you this. So you teach as well, correct?
exactly. I teach at Castle of Dance with Shamalo and the team of Castle of Dance, which is a great dance school in Amsterdam. So happy to be there. Yeah.
I'm curious, what is a common mistake that you see in your classes that you wish you could rectify for everyone?
Hmm. Yeah, it also depends on if we're talking about leaders or followers, I assume. Um, I think that as soon as you talk about relaxation, that is hard for people, or posture and relaxation, right? Like, so if you have too much tensions in your shoulder, no matter if you're follower or leader, you're going to not have a smooth dance. But also, uh, if you cannot relax and breathe into musicality, you're always going to be a bit off. So it depends on if you have harder time relaxing, um, and breathing and like actually flow with the music. Then I wish that everyone could hear music, first of all, because wow, that's a blessing. And it's I have seen people that don't hear beat learn how to do that, and you just need to be actually very, very supportive in that, because there are some leaders that knows exactly how to do steps, but they don't know how to do it on the music. And there's leaders that knows how to be in the music, but they don't know how to execute the steps with preparation enough to make the followers dance on the beat. So mm, I wish that people would be able to relax more into it, but again, that comes with confidence. So it's like, where in which angle do you start? Some people come in with great confidence and they struggle to just get the steps down, coordination, and other people can get the coordination down, but they are so disconnected to music that they could dance without it. Like it has nothing to do with what they're hearing.
I,
So yeah.
I think that something I realized, I think, and you spoke on it before, is just being in the moment. And I think what happens as a beginner is that you're so stuck in your head. So, still thinking about everything you have to do, what comes next, how's the follower doing, who are the people around me, that it's almost impossible to even focus on the music. And so as you become more comfortable and more confident, you start to be able to focus on less things, and you start to be able to focus on the music, which allows you to be more in the moment, which
Yeah.
allows you to be a better dance partner, which equals a greater dance, a better time for both parties. And so I think a lot of times I'll hear questions from beginners, and I think the simple answer is you just got to practice more. And I know that's probably a terrible answer, But I think
Do you,
just practice.
exactly. And don't you agree that like if you could take away fear of failure from anyone,
Super important.
and again, like what can that teach us? If we can do it in dancing, which makes you sweat, you see your students are like pale because they have to hold on to another person. And that fear of failing is so big, you're realizing this is not only in dancing, this is you in life. And that comes a lot in the followers as well. You see a lot of good girls that have been good in school, aced it in work, have great careers. They come to Kizomba. And then just the fearing of failure, like, you have students that cry after class because they were just so scared of making mistakes and not being asked again. And then you realize it has something to do with what comes up in your dancing learning is 100% connected to you the rest of your life. That's what I believe. So fear of failure is a real thing. A real thing. We want to be perfect. We want to impress. Fear of failure is fear of showing vulnerability, that it's okay to fail and that you're going to fail. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. But the fear of doing it, it makes people quit. And I think that is a reflection of society rather than only dancing.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be our harshest critics, ourselves. So I definitely 100% understand that. You kind of, I'll ask you this question because you kind of brought it up. What are some lessons that you learned from dancing that you're able to translate to your everyday life?
Yeah. I mean, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Like what we have talked about, being in the moment of just like taking a breath and being like, am I really here when I'm sitting at this dinner? Am I really here or am I in tomorrow planning? So I think that being in music and being like right in the moment has taught me the beauty of being in the moment with other humans. That's one thing. The fear of failure, like if you have failed miserably in dancing with your whole body, you maybe fell, you maybe made someone else fall, I don't know. I mean, I've been elbowing people in the face. I've been elbowed in the face. If you can get over those things, then a presentation at work seems just a little bit less frightening because I know what it means to physically fail on a weekly basis. So that is something that I've learned. Meeting people or like just not being scared of approaching people again, because I do believe in asking up. I do believe in me taking initiative to create meetings with people, no matter if that is with students or with people out on social or, it's like you become better at not only reading people, but to engage with them, take initiative to say something. If I can, again, as terrified as I am, ask someone that intimidates me to dance, then how hard is it going to be to talk with a stranger on a bus? So dancing have made a lot of things. Joy for the smallest things. Joy for like, wow, that was a great dance evening. You don't need much more really to find happiness. I'm so happy that dancing have created outlets of happiness in everyday life, because you don't need a million bookings in order to enjoy dancing. You don't need to to reach a certain level. No, you need to just go out. You can have had a shitty day and then you go out and you meet someone and somebody is like appreciating you in the moment just because you show up. Yeah, what more do you really need in order to close that day off in a good way?
Definitely, I definitely understand
I
that.
really want to ask, I really want to hear what you have learned from dancing.
Oh man. Um, I was actually thinking about this when I asked you. There's this quote that I really like. Um, I was actually looked it up while I was talking to you. It's true wisdom is the understanding of underlying concepts, how they relate to situations that seem irrelevant but really are not. And the way I interpret that is that my journey in dancing and social dancing, I used to not be able to dance. I was terrible. I had two left feet. I could not dance, and I took a salsa class, and for whatever reason, I stuck with it, and I became good. I'm confident, and I'm confident in salsa. I'm confident in bachata. I'm confident in kizomba. I'm confident in these things, and the only way I became confident in them was because I stuck with it and I endured through the tough times. And so that lets me know that any endeavor in life, any skill, any objective, any goal I have is it's going to be the same type of path, right? It's going to be difficult at first, and then after a while, I'll get better at it. I'll become more confident in it. So that's how I interpret that quote. Is that
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, that's how I interpret it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Isn't it nice when you have like a before and after picture of yourself? When you're like, I used to remember thinking I could never do that. Now I couldn't, how would I ever be able to do that? And then you reach a point where you're like, I'm able to do it and I am killing it. And then you realize like, wow, that means I could do that with anything, really. Yeah, as you say, that means I can overcome anything that I want to learn, obstacles, or changing the image of myself. I remember what it meant to be a non-dancer. Now I am a dancer. So if you are the one who can shape the view of yourself, then yeah, what do you want to unlock, really?
100%, 100%. Let me ask you this. Can you give me one tip, one piece of advice that can make anyone a better dancer immediately?
Mm, if it would be just one single tip, I think it is what we also talked about of like, with what energy do you show up? Because that is essentially how it's going to feel like. It doesn't matter if we're doing three steps in a whole song. If you have an energy of, woo, let's go, let's do this. And I'm having fun and I want us to have fun and I just want to enjoy this moment together. That that alone is like, again, it's the baseline of having a good time. So will it make any dance better? Yes, it will. It doesn't matter what level. If you come in with the energy of let's just have fun and let's rock this song, even if it's just one with the three steps I got, then that is immediately going to better the experience for both parts. Doesn't matter if you're a follower or a leader. I am a beginner. I'm a follower. I'm going to just see what I can do. And I'm not going to get scared or tensed or frustrated or stiff or anxious if I do a mistake, because I will do mistakes. So what's the point? So if you can go in with that, no matter if you have 300 steps to rock on the dance floor, it's the same like going into a club. Who has the most fun? The person who stands on the side or only doing a solo super technically on their own, or the person who vibes with a slide and a clap the whole night and can jam with everyone? Like, who's gonna have the better night?
I definitely understand that. I definitely do. I know you wanted to talk about this, so real quick, I would love to hear about your podcast. Talk to me about that. Tell me about that, please.
Yeah, I'm so interested about yours too. I do think it's such uh, a privilege to be able to talk with dancers. And I know that during COVID, it was a golden opportunity to be able to call up any dancer in the world because everyone was at home and unbooked. So that's how I started my podcast 2020. I started calling up anyone from La Alemana in the States, Bachata stars to hip hop, B-boy champion Nguyen in Brazil, and just asking people, let's talk. And I think it was a great moment because a lot of dancers had a lot of time to reflect on their dance journeys. But it also feels like we're not archiving enough of current dancers. And so I want to send the question right back to you. Like, what made you start yours? Because I know for me, it was like, I don't know anything about these dancers that I only see on videos, but I don't know anything about their lives, how they started, their philosophy. Well, what made you start to Left Feet?
Uh, I started because if you know this guy named Gary V on YouTube, he said he planted some idea in my head, and I thought it would be. I enjoy dancing. Dancing was the only thing I'm good at. If I think about dancing, like the only thing I'm actually like confident in and I enjoy doing. So I thought, since it's the only thing I'm good at, why not start a podcast on it? And that's the only way I could think of giving back to the community, if that makes sense at all.
100%, 100%. What have like personally, what do you think has been the biggest thing that it has given you to talk with all these dancers you never met?
What has it given me?
Yeah.
Ooh, what has it given me? Um, I think it's super cool when someone drops a comment and says, this show is really helpful. I really enjoyed it. I really love that. I really enjoy that. What has it given me? I'm proud of it. I've been doing it for the past. I started mine in February 2019. So I'm super proud that I've stuck with it for this long. Um, I'm not sure. I don't. What do you think your podcast is giving you?
Yeah, I mean, I was very good at keeping it up every single week for the first like 1-2 years. I do say that this past year has been a lot harder. I am 7 months pregnant, so I'm not gonna blame it on that, but it is also something that has like shifted my focus a bit. And I just think that I realized that no matter what style of dancers that I talk to, we're so similar. It's insane. We go through the same struggles of like, you know, should I keep doing this? Or should I have another job? Or injuries that can just completely kill your will I ever be able to do the things I used to be doing and stuff like that. So I just love to see that we are so usually separate in our own dancing style bubbles. Like light feet dancers don't talk to salsa dancers, but they have so much in common. And so I think that the podcast really has helped me to connect with dancers that are completely out of my own field, but we're the same global weird people that decided to dedicate our love and life to dancing. So we're essentially the same. Nobody told you that you should dance, man. This is gonna save your life, or that's gonna be a great career choice. Nobody said that. And nobody. It's always like, oh, please dance on the side and have a real job. And, you know. So yeah, I think that the connection with other dancers have been massive. And I do also want to say it's so interesting to hear about like, oh, we dance the same style, but the scene can look so different. So like when you as a Kizomba dancer from the States talk, it's different from a European, and what can we learn from that? So yeah, what is like your dreams with your podcast? What do you want to actually achieve, or do you just want to keep going and talk to as many people as possible?
I would love if I could like do this full time. I really, in my opinion, I believe I'm a great listener, and I think I'm pretty decent at this. I think I'm good at asking questions, so I would love to be able to do this full time. I've actually had. I think it's really cool when you get to interview someone who you look up to. I think that's super cool. So just getting the opportunity to, yeah, talk to someone you look up to. Oh my goodness, I had a couple opportunities to interview a couple of musicians who I grew up listening to. So
Oh, that's
that
awesome.
opportunity is super cool. I reached out to them and they say yes, and I've had them on my show. So I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. And just being able to talk to dancers who I look up to, that's super cool. Being able to provide value and being able to learn things myself. I think I've definitely, of course, I skipped over that earlier. I've learned so much talking to so many different dancers. I've learned a lot. So my ultimate goal, I would love to be able to do this full time. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if I stick with it, if I'm persistent, um, I don't see why not. What about yourself?
Right. Yeah, wouldn't it be cool to be able to travel to those dancers and meet them in real life and interview them? You
Of
know, it would
course.
be so dope to have like a production team to just be like, follow them around, interview them, make a little actual interview, but also with video material, see them where their home is. I think that that would be such a dope opportunity, to be honest. Like, yeah, I know you need money in order to do that, and you need to be able to say, yes, let's go to, Polynesia to to get there and to see them. But I think that that would be super dope to also have the video aspect of it and really make it like a full little documentary about the people. That would be so, so dope. And yeah, man, we have to create something. We have to like do a live event where we can interview maybe dancers live on more festivals where they're more together or stuff like that, to create um, not only like, oh, you get to dance with all these dance stars, but like you get to hear them. You get to actually hear them when they sit down and they talk about dance. And I think that the philosophy is really, really cool.
That's actually something I envisioned. I when I went back stateside a couple years ago, I went to a dance festival and actually brought my gear. So I attended a couple of classes, but also got to just interview in person a couple of the instructors, and I think that's super cool. And so that's something
Yeah.
I kind of envision of being able to, I don't know, travel to different dance congresses, take
Yes.
classes, but as well as interview the instructors or the musicians, just in everyone involved. I think that'd be super cool. I think that would
Yeah.
be super cool. I would really love that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Hey, definitely, definitely. At this point, I want to thank you so much, T-Zer, for taking time out your day to talk to me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Same, same. So dope to be on the other side. Like I love also asking questions, so I have to like contain myself a bit to not go in and like, how was your childhood? But you know what? Let's make a deal. I want to interview you on my
Oh
podcast.
man, that's super
Yep,
tough.
yep. So we're gonna set a new date,
Oh
and
man.
you're gonna come on my podcast, and I'm gonna have to get to deep dive into your life. So is that a deal?
I have to return the favor, so yes, of course.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited.
I'm super nervous.
No, no, no. This is gonna be fine. It's really, really nice actually to actually be interviewed. It also inspires me to, oh, this is what he's asking me. So I want to thank you right back for inspiring me today.
Real quick, tell me, do you have any upcoming events, anything you want to plug, anything you want to share?
Well, as I said, right now, giving birth to a little dancer is hopefully like the number one thing. I just taught my last dance gig for now. I am super stoked to come back, of course. And I do started to teach way more lady styling in the last year. So I create my own workshops and I really go in and I want to give a lot to the followers. Um, I mean, you can always find me in Amsterdam at this point. Castle of Dance is a place where I believe Shamalo, my bro, the school owner is really he is really the most one of the most technical dancers I've ever met, and his teacher skills is something that I also really just want to shout out and highlight. I'm very proud to teach there, but also to see the students that are growing and coming out of that dance school. So I want to shout out the Dutch community for being the best. There's a good vibe in the Netherlands, from DJs to artists to supporting each other. I don't feel like at all that there's a competitive kind of vibe here. I do see a lot of collaborations, and you're going to see a lot more of that when I'm back as well. So for now, if you want to, check out my Instagram, T-Zer Fuse, and there's going to come up some videos from my last classes and shows, and I will see you when I'm back. That's what I want to shout out.
Okay, that's perfect. And you kind of answered my next question. How can people reach out to you? So Instagram, T-Zer Fuse. Any other ways they can reach out to you?
Well, I also have, of course, the podcast and Dance Specific Talks. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and stuff like that. I do have an Instagram for it as well, but most people find me on YouTube. So check out some of the episodes there. As I said, I'm trying to interview a big variety of dance styles. So if you are a Kizomba dancer that has never heard about bone breaking, that could be also a good show for you to learn some other styles and hear some other dancers talk about it. And hopefully, if everything goes as planned, we're gonna interview some really dope people coming up as well. So yeah, let's stay connected.
Yeah, sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. Real quick before we close out of this episode, are there any last words you want to share before we close this episode out?
I think that what is happening now when we're coming back from COVID is that we are able to connect again. And if I could just share my wish with people, it would be like, that was something that we can learn from. Like, what do you want to give back to the community? What do you actually want to bring into the dance floor? What kind of environment do you want to create? Do you want to create a safe, happy, inspiring community? Or do you want to come in and just, as we talked about, show off or make money out of it? That there is a difference. And I think that COVID really taught us the value of being able to meet. So take that opportunity and stop with the fear of failure. Go out there and improve your life, because I do think that dancing can do that for you. And I also want to, of course, shout out you for keep doing this. No, it's not easy to keep up podcasts. So shout out to you for doing it and keep going, because we need to be a lot of soldiers out there capturing this part of the dance history that people are going to look back at in the future.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I really do. At this point, I want to thank you so much, T-Zer, for taking time out your day. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. I think this will do it for this episode of the Tula Fee podcast. Thank you so much, T-Zer.
Thank you.
Oh. Enjoy the rest of your day, all right?
Yes, thanks.
All right, ciao.
Ciao.